Hello, welcome back. We are covering calculators and trig functions of acute angles here, section 2.2. So take notes and ask me questions as you watch if you do have questions. Okay, so 2.2, calculators and trig functions. Trig functions of acute angles. Okay, so we've already been looking at how to measure angles in terms of degrees. There are other ways to measure angles, and we will be looking at those other ways soon, like radians. And then here in this section, we're going to look at degrees, minutes, seconds. Okay, so that's another way to measure angles. Okay, so degrees, minutes, seconds, also known as DMS. Okay, so DMS, which stands for degrees, minutes, and seconds. So this is just another way to measure angles in a very, very precise way. Okay. Let me go ahead and underline that. So this is another way to measure angles with accuracy. So it turns out that 1 degree of measure, okay, so 1 degree, so if you can picture 1 degree, so what happens is that 1 degree is cut into 60 equal parts. So 1 degree, so 1 degree is already very small, right? So if you can imagine that 1 degree cut into 60 slices, right? So 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes. Okay. Another way to look at that. So then 1 minute, so if there are 60 minutes in 1 degree, then 1 minute, so one of those slices is only 1/60th of a degree, right? So 1 minute equals 1/60th of a degree. Okay, so here's a visual. So imagine 1 degree. I'm going to imagine 1 degree zoomed in, right? Because my 1 degree, that's too small to draw. So let's assume this is 1 degree. I know it looks more like 45 degrees, but let's assume this is 1 degree zoomed in. Okay, so this here is 1 degree. Okay, 1 degree of measure, this angle. Okay, and then what happens is we divide this 1 degree into 60 parts, 60 equal parts. Okay, 1 part is 1 minute. Okay, and the notation that we use for 1 minute is this, a little single tick mark. Okay, so if we have this 1 degree right here, and let me use a different color, and let me use a very fine size. And so imagine if this angle is cut into 60 pieces, which I can't do, right? because my pen is just too thick. Okay, 60 pieces in there. One of those itty bitty pieces is 1 minute. So you can see the precision here when we start measuring in terms of 1 minute. Okay, so when we're measuring in terms of 1 minute, we're measuring to 1/60th of a degree. Okay, and then we have seconds. You can probably guess what makes up 1 second. Okay, so we have 1 degree up here. Okay, so where's my mouse? Oh, my mouse is too tiny now. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is 1 degree. So now I'm going to go ahead and draw 1 minute, zoomed in. Okay, so drawing 1 minute, and I'm zooming in on it. I know, they all look like they're 45 degrees. Okay, so zooming in on one of these little slices here, okay, which is 1 minute, right? Okay. And so what happens is we divide this itty bitty piece. It's already pretty tiny, right? Now, if we take that tiny piece and we divide it into 60 parts, then 1 part is 1 minute. I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay, and the notation here would be 1 second. Instead of spelling out SEC, we could just use 1 and then 2 tick marks. Okay, and let me use blue. So here, if we cut this into 60 slices, right, which I really can't, one of those slices, just one of those really itty bitty slices, is equal to 1 second. And you have to remember that my drawing here is, of course, not to scale. It's zoomed in. Okay, so it's zoomed in. And so that's why these look like they're the same thing, but they're not. Okay, it's like I took one of these slices right in here and we zoomed in on it, right? Because this is 1 minute, that's 1 minute, that's 1 minute, that's 1 minute, that's 1 minute, and there are 60 of them in here. So I take one of those minutes, which is this, zoom in on it, and I divide it into 60 parts as well. And each one of those is 1 second. Okay. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. So 1 degree equals 60 seconds. Or you can say 1 second is 1/60th of a degree. And 1 minute equals 60 seconds. That makes sense because that's true when we talk about time, right? Or 1 second is 1/60th of a minute. Okay. All right. So let's take a look. So as far as these angle measurements go, you're used to degrees probably or radians. Degrees, minutes, seconds. You don't see it used too often. It is used in like navigation, mostly like on ships, on boats. It's also used with telescopes. That was like the first time I ever used it because my neighbor and I, we were using our telescopes, and he went ahead and converted to degrees, minutes, and seconds, because when you're looking up the sky and you're trying to aim at something, when you turn it, it makes a big difference. So we want it to be as precise as possible. And then like with boats, same thing with boats. We don't use this for flying. So I fly helicopters, so we don't use this for navigation. It's like we're facing 270 degrees. That's about it. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at some exercises here. All right, so actually some examples here. So over here, so if we have this 52 degrees, if we have this notation, then we read this as 52 degrees. So it's really not the degrees part. It's more like when you have like a decimal degree, like 52.7 or 52.369, right? Then you convert that decimal part into degrees, minutes, seconds. Okay, so you would read this one 52 degrees in 10 minutes. Okay. If we had something like this, 5 degrees, 27, single tick mark, double tick mark. This means 5 degrees. You would read this as 5 degrees, 27 minutes, 27 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay. So you can imagine this here. So try to visualize it. You have 5 degrees, so you know what 5 degrees looks like. Very small. Okay. And then 27 minutes. So it's like you have 1 degree cut into 60 parts, and you only have 27 of those. Okay. And then even smaller, 30 seconds. So you take one of those minutes, and you don't have a full minute, but you have half of that minute. Okay. If you have this 13 degrees, 24 minutes and 15 seconds. Okay. So 13 degrees, 24 minutes, 15 seconds. Okay. All right. And then we can do some computations with degrees, minutes, seconds. So let's take a look at adding DMS. Okay, so we can add them together. So the thing with adding, so you have to keep in mind that, remember, 60 minutes, once you hit 60 minutes, you don't say, oh, 62. You can't go beyond really 59, because once you have 60 minutes, that's equivalent to 1 degree, right? So you can't, like, we would never say, don't write this down, but we would never say 45 degrees and 63 minutes, right? And we would never say that, right? Because we know that, once you hit 60, that's an extra degree, right? So really, this should be 46 minutes and 46 degrees and 3 minutes. Okay. Because again, once you hit 60, that's equal to 1 degree. Okay. So we can't have anything, we can't even have 60. The most we can have here is 59. Okay. And then same thing with the seconds. You would never have 60 seconds. You would never have 63 seconds. You wouldn't have anything more than 59, because once you hit 60 seconds, then it turns into a minute, right? Okay. So we're going to keep that in mind. Okay, so keep in mind that 60 minutes equals 60 seconds equals 1 minute. Okay. So hence the max seconds is going to be 59. Okay. And 60 minutes equals 1 degree. Hence the max minutes you can ever have is also 59. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here. So if I have 120 degrees and 75 minutes, all right, so again, we said we can't have more than 59, right? We can't have more than 59. Okay, so so over here, we would have, this simplifies to 121 degrees and 15 seconds. 15 minutes. Sorry. Okay. And maybe it's hard for you to see that. I'm not sure. Okay. But it's because 75, right? 75 is equal to 60 plus 15, right? 60 plus 15. Okay. And we already know that this is going to be 1 degree. So that carries over to here. And we have 15 minutes left. Okay. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. So 120 degrees, 75 minutes. Remember, we can't have more than 59. Okay. This cannot be more than 59 because once we hit 60, 60 minutes is 1 degree. We have 75. 75 is 60 plus 15. So 60 is equivalent to 1 degree. So that's why it goes here. But we still have the 15 minutes, which is why we have 15 here. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and add the following: 39 degrees, 27 minutes, plus 65 degrees, 36 minutes. Okay. So here, this is 104 degrees, 63 minutes. Okay. We went beyond our max. Remember, we can't go beyond 59. Okay. All right. So let's take a look. We know that 63 is 60 plus 3, right? Okay. So let's put our minutes. Okay. 63 is 60 plus 3. Okay. So we have 1 degree. So we're going to go ahead and increase the degrees. But then we'll still have 3 minutes left. Okay. So this here, when we add these together, we still do this part: 7 plus 6, 13, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then 39 plus 65 is 104. But then we always have to check to see if we went beyond our max of 59. Okay. And then you can go over here and figure out, okay, how many degrees do we have in there? 60 minutes is 1 degree. Okay. So we add 1 here. But then we have 3 left over. Okay. Same thing with subtraction. Okay, so let's do 90 degrees minus 24 degrees and 14 minutes. Okay, Now, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this vertically so that it makes a little more sense why we need to borrow. Okay, so 90 degrees, and we want to subtract 24 degrees in 14 minutes, right? Okay, so it's kind of like decimals, right? We can't subtract the 14 part, right? We need something here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and borrow a degree, right? And remember, 1 degree is 60 minutes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and borrow 1 degree from here. So now it becomes 89 degrees. But when I borrow 1 degree is the same as 60 minutes. Okay, so I have a total of 60 here because 60 minutes is 1 degree. Okay, all right. So now I have enough to subtract. Okay, so when I subtract here, I get 6, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we get 65 degrees and 46 minutes for our answer here. Okay, if you have enough to subtract the 14, then you don't need to borrow, but we did not have enough. Okay. Go ahead and try this. Here, I'll leave this one here. And go ahead and try this. Go ahead and subtract 87 degrees, subtract 39 degrees, and 14 minutes. Okay, so go ahead and give that a try. Hit the pause button and then come back. Okay, so 87 degrees minus 39 degrees and 14 minutes. Okay, so we don't have enough. It's like we have 0 here, right? Okay, so we don't have enough here. So we need to borrow 1 degree. So this becomes 86 degrees. We're borrowing 1 degree from there. 1 degree is 60 minutes. So we have a total of 60 minutes here. Note, let's say this said 87 degrees, 3 minutes, right? So if you had 3 minutes here, you still wouldn't have enough to subtract 14. So you would still have to borrow, but instead of having 60 minutes here, you would have 63 minutes, right? So make sure you put the total minutes that you have here all together, okay? So if there are 3 minutes here, this would say 63, okay? All right, but it doesn't. We don't have any minutes, so we only have 60 when we borrow. Okay, and then when you do your subtraction here, you should get 47 degrees and 46 minutes. Okay. All right. So check your answer and make sure that you receive the right answer. Okay. So maybe when I was talking about, oh, what if it said 87 degrees and 3 minutes? Okay, let's go ahead and look at one just in case you didn't quite understand what I was saying. Okay, so this is what I meant. So this is just sort of a spur of the moment problem. Okay, so subtract. So let's suppose you did have 87 degrees and 3 minutes, right? And you had to subtract 39 degrees and 14 minutes, right? Okay, so 87 degrees, 3 minutes, subtract 39 degrees, 14 minutes, okay? You still don't have enough, right? You still don't have enough to subtract 14 minutes, right? So we're going to go ahead and borrow 1 degree from here. So that becomes 86. And if we borrow 1 degree from here, now we have, remember, 1 degree is 60 minutes. So then now here, I don't have 60 minutes. I have a total of 60 plus 3. So I have 63 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to cross that out. I actually have 63 minutes now. Okay, and that is more than enough to subtract 14. Okay, and then you would subtract as usual. But that's what I wanted to point out. Okay, because both of these examples here had 0 minutes, right? So I just wanted to show you what happens if you do have some minutes but not enough. Okay. So again, you only borrow when you don't have enough. So if this had said 87 degrees and 20 minutes, 20 minutes you do have enough to subtract 14. So you would not have to borrow 1 degree. Okay? You only borrow when you don't have enough to subtract whatever is here. Okay? All right, so that is the end of part 1. Okay, so that is the end of part 1 of 3. Okay, so if you have any questions about this, make sure you message me. Some of you have already been messaging me, so that's fantastic. Okay, stay tuned for part 2. There are 3 parts, so stay tuned for part 2.